So we're going to be bringing out a couple of surrogates for Congressman Allred. We have former Tarrant County Republican Judge Glenn Whitley. We have Congresswoman Fletcher from the Houston area representing the 7th District. And we have Dr. Austin Denard of Dallas. She's an OBGYN and someone who had to leave the state in order to get abortion care. They're here to answer your questions, and so we're going to have them come over, step over here. So thank you so much. All right, who's got questions?
Judge Whitley, and if you could step up to the mic, that'd be greatly appreciated. So you've come out and endorsed Congressman Allred, and I'm wondering, do you think he attracted any Republicans tonight during this debate?
I feel like he did. I think he had some great answers. Again, he showed that he was interested in the people of Texas, and I think he showed a lot of character. Whereas I think Cruz, on the other hand, showed he's interested in doing things for himself. He said words, he wanted to look at actions instead of words. Well, let's look at actions. 2016, Trump was very disrespectful of his father and of his wife. He pushed back, but then in 18, when he needed support, he bowed over, kissed the ring, and threw his wife under the bus. We come to Uri. He leaves the state. We're left here in this area. We had over 200 deaths in Texas. We had over 4 million people who were without power. We had over half the state that had problems with water. And then the last thing, the insurrection. I'm sorry, he helped support and worked with Trump to stop the tradition of 250 years of peaceful transfer of authority. Again, it was all about him. So if you're going to look at actions, look at those actions. And again, at the very end, when he said, this is the most important election of my life, not of our lives, but of my life. It was, again, all about him, and it was not about that. I first met Allred when he came to Fort Worth to look at and to help emphasize the burn pit bill and legislation. I saw him again when he worked on immigration. And it's a heck of a thing when you see the Democrat winning the discussion on the border over a Republican. And I think he did that tonight. So I'm very proud to be someone who is supporting supporting Colin Allred and not supporting Ted Cruz, even though I was a lifetime and am a lifetime Republican. I don't believe that Texas is going to flip to a Democratic or a blue or even a purple, but I do think that this is a very important race, and I believe that Colin Allred is the right person at the right time and someone who cares very much about the people of Texas and not just about the party. I can't say that enough. Washington, in a farewell address, said he distrusted the parties because he felt like they were more interested in doing things for themselves. I think that what we see in Cruz is exactly that. I think what we see in Colin Allred is someone who wants to support and work for the people of Texas.
When you say you don't know what do you mean by that? Do you think Colin Allred can win Texas?
I think Colin Allred can win this race in Texas, but I don't see all of Texas going blue anytime soon.
Congresswoman Fletcher, the hottest topic right now in the race, at least in the airwaves, is the boys and girls sports issue. Congressman Allred obviously put the ad out saying, I cannot believe in that. Do you think he effectively rebutted those ads and his voting record on the issue in the debate tonight?
I think he did. I think Congressman Allred did a fantastic job in the debate tonight, showing Texans who he is and who Ted Cruz is. And it's something that Texans know, right? Deep in their bones. We all know what happened, as Congressman Allred pointed out, when we were in trouble, when we were out of power, when we were freezing inside our homes. And as the judge mentioned, that was a challenge for people across the state of Texas. People not far from our home in Houston, not far from where Senator Cruz lives, froze to death inside their own homes. And he went to Cancun. Texans know that. But Congressman Allred reminded us of that tonight, and he talked about what we see Ted Cruz has been doing for the last 12 years, which is dividing people and trying to pull people apart and tear people apart and make them afraid of each other, make Texans afraid of each other. Colin Allred said it in his closing, that A, he answered the questions, and B, he said, he quoted the great John Lewis and said, you know, we may have all come here on different boats, but we're in the same boat now. And he wants to be a senator for all Texans, for every Texan, and he wants to protect the dignity and equality of every single Texan, and I think that's who he is, and that's what we saw tonight in his answers in the debate. Thanks.
So, I mean, the voting record's there, and Cruz hit on it a lot. Now, Allred is obviously saying he's against it. How do you combat that when the voting record is there?
Look, Senator Cruz referred a lot to the voting record, and I took the same votes at the same time, and I don't know half the things he was talking about. I'm not sure. In fact, I don't think he was telling the truth about what those votes are, and that happens a whole lot. You see in Congress all the time these votes that are kind of gotcha votes, and then you see the campaigns and the candidates come out and talk about how there was one sentence in some bill that was about something else, and that shows that they voted on something. It happened all the time in my first and second term in Congress with these motions to recommit, other things. There are all of these tricks and games. And frankly, that's what I assumed that Senator Cruz was talking about when he was talking about various votes. What you heard Congressman Allred say was that he defends and supports the equality of all Texans, all of our kids, all of our citizens, and that is what he was supporting, is what I support too, in the Equality Act. And the question he asked is the one we show us. Why doesn't Senator Cruz support the Equality Act? And he said on the stage that he supports the equality of all Texans, but he's running ads against the bill that does that. Thank you.
Follow-up question on that, please. The Equality Act, does that exclude boys playing sports with girls?
The
Not, what is the plan on your issue or license?
So the Equality Act, very simply, is a bill that says that you cannot discriminate. It amends the Civil Rights Act from the 1960s, so you cannot discriminate against LGBTQ Americans in housing, in jury service, in accommodations on the basis of gender identity. That is the fundamental equality of all Americans. It is simply a bill against discrimination. And so those are the things that we take up. That is the bill that we've taken up in Congress, and that is what Senator Cruz is running ads against. Thank you.
Just said your name too fast for me. What is it?
Austin Denard.
Oh, hi. What did you make of Senator Cruz's sort of non-answers about what he thinks or doesn't think about the laws we have in Texas on abortion?
Well, you know, I'm not a particularly political person. I'm a Texan and I'm a mother of 3 children, and I'm also an OBGYN that's been practicing in the state for many years. And I'm also someone who had to travel out of state to get abortion care for a pregnancy that my husband and I really, really wanted, that had a lethal fetal diagnosis. So I really know what it feels like to be affected by these abortion bans, both as an individual patient and then also by a physician, or as a physician. So when I came tonight to listen to Ted Cruz and Colin Allred talk about their issues, the number one thing on the ballot for me was abortion. And I was really disappointed to hear that Ted Cruz had absolutely nothing to say about abortion. He never answered a single question clearly about abortion, and I still feel like his abortion bans have put me, my whole family, other Texans, and all my patients at risk, whereas Colin shared stories about what's going on with Texas women and with families. He shared stories like mine, like Amanda's, and like Kate's, and I know and feel that he is going to take care of us. So there's a striking difference between the two candidates, and I just never got a clear answer from Ted Cruz. I think he's frankly just afraid to admit all the harm that he has done with his abortion bans.
You're surprised Ted Cruz does not have an opinion about something?
Well, I'm not that surprised. I think he's very afraid to talk about abortion because we know that Texans support abortion and support reproductive freedom. But Ted Cruz has created a state where we have some of the most cruel, horrific abortion bans out of any other state in the country, and it's because of him.
Anybody else?
Yes.
in his ad where he said, I don't, you know, I'm against boys playing girls sports. Is it the position of, you know, already yourself or even the Democratic Party that, that trans girls are in fact boys playing, you know, playing against girls?
Well, I think to answer your question, I'm here to talk about what I saw tonight, and I do think that the congressman's answers speak for themselves. I think what we're seeing is Ted Cruz trying to divide Americans, trying to divide the community, and I think that what we are seeing and what we are talking about in terms of this response is that Ted Cruz is talking about something that isn't what people are talking about, right? He's taking the Equality Act that says that people are equal and says it's about something else. We've been through these fights in Texas before with the bathroom bill, with other things, trying to say that supporting equality of all Texans is something it's not. And I think that that's what the response was that I understood. And I think that his response does explain that Ted Cruz is lying about the issue and trying to turn us against each other, and that that's not okay, and that that's not what Colin Allred will do as our senator. He'll bring us together, and he will protect and support and work for all Texans.